Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the show, the Bachelor News Radio Show on the Bachelor News Radio Network, and our good friends at WCOM, of course, WCOM LP Chapel Hill and Carborough. If you miss any part of our broadcast, you go to our website, the Bachelor News Radio Network.com. I want to bring in my guest. He is the men's basketball coach at Saint Augustine College. Of course, they're not flying at this point. The Falcons, they're grounded due to, unfortunately, COVID-19. He is Marqus Johnson. And Coach Johnson, it's always a pleasure to have you on, sir.
Thank you, L.A., for having me on. I really appreciate this. I really enjoy it.
Coach, where were you when you got the word? Well, let's backtrack. When you found out how bad COVID was going to be and maybe started hearing some rumors about cancellations, and then they just canceled it all. I know when I just finished covering the CIAA. It was a week after the MEAC was coming up. I went all the way to Norfolk, got to the arena, and they canceled it. Everything. NCAA shut everything down. Needless to say, I was not a happy camper. But where were you when everything started taking place?
Actually, I was out recruiting when I got the word as far as when things was going to shut down last year, and it was just amazing just watching how things. It was just a domino effect on the way the sports world was just got shut down. So I was out recruiting, and then next thing I know, the next day, the event was shut down. So I had to stay around for a day, thinking I was going to see some basketball, but basketball was canceled. So I ended up coming back home, and we saw how everything was then.
It had to be, a stunner to say the least. And let me just ask this question personally. I won't get into the commissioner and the conference did the right thing, but what was your first reaction when it happened? Like, what are we going to do? Or, based on what we knew at the time, this was a smart decision. What was your first thoughts?
My first thoughts were the well-being of the players, because mentally, I knew they were already fragile from not having a traditional preseason. So that was my immediate thought was the players, how can I get them under control mentally to understand that, this is probably for the best interest, for the welfare, healthy for our players, just to get them on the same page and understand that, the season, even though we're not having a season this year, next year you can come back and we can get things going, and we are going to do some type of workouts in the spring, but mainly just talking with them to let them understand that this is just, I know it's a bump in the road now, seems like a mountain, but it's just a small piece of life that we have to, what we call adjust and adapt. Not only pivot, but we have to adjust and adapt. This is just one of the things that we just had to do as far as adapting.
If you're just joining us, of course, we're talking with Marqus Johnson. He is the men's basketball coach at Saint Augustine's University Falcons, and the whole entire CIAA conference, and of course others have canceled all basketball this season. And Coach, I'm glad you said that, because I won't get into names and universities and things, but I've had some people on, and I've read and know of some others who decided that they were going to play. And unfortunately, it doesn't make a difference in terms of, COVID seasonal color, but I think it's could be potentially dangerous if you're HBCU and you put these kids out there and they're on campus and everything else, and God forbid something happens, then it's really a mess.
That is true. But one thing I've talking with other coaches and just looking at the situation, the only way to really not contract it or stop it is you have to stay in your house and go from your living room to your bedroom to the bathroom
right.
to the kitchen. So anytime you leave the house, there is a risk of you possibly getting exposed. But I think I commend my guys that I think they did a good job of handling the safety measures that we put in place for them at the time. And we were able to get some work in, some practices in. But, unfortunately, the way things were as far as with the conference, as far as with the school situation, I think it was just too much to bear and too much risk that they didn't want to, really put us out there like that.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Marqus Johnson, 6 seasons, I believe, under his belt at Saint Augustine College and University, and known for great recruiting and certainly known for guys who can light it up. Certainly, if you look at the three-point shooters and Tyree Gathright and guys like that. One of the things, too, I talk with other coaches we've had on. We have Robert Jones, I'm sure you know him, Norfolk State, some others on. And it was really hard, and I know it has to be. If you had seniors that not only didn't get a chance to finish their senior year, but in the best basketball, men and women's basketball tournament on the planet, and that's the CIAA tournament, they didn't get to do that. Did you have seniors, a bunch of them, not knowing your complete roster? And if so, how did they handle it? How did you handle it with them?
Well, the one way I handled it is I always work with them on the mental side of the game and not only just athleticism. So I sat them down and we talked about it because, the one thing I will commend the NCAA on is that they did allow players the opportunity to come back next year. So they all see that as a good opportunity as far as getting a year older, mature, not only in the classroom, not only in the weight room and on the court, but also in the classroom, and being able to, concentrate on your schoolwork and just work on your game and your skills to try to get better for next year. And that's the main thing I keep trying to tell them is that this year is going to pass by, and we're going to get to next year. We just have to be ready when that year comes, and don't waste this time, wallow in despair, because at the end of the day, nobody really cares about your feelings. So you got to, put your bootstraps on and let's get to work and let's, be prepared so when the time comes next year in August, we're ready to go.
Yeah, amen to that. And even with some, MEAC and the SWAC definitely, and some other schools playing, and we're talking with the coaches, even the ones that are playing, you don't know if the game's canceled. You can't really practice. It's just so many restrictions. If you were playing, how would you handle that? How does that even look in the midst of COVID-19?
I tell you, that's a tough one to answer because it's hard. It would be hard because we have our students on campus, so we're not able to put our players in a so-called bubble. The main thing that we just kept, pounding in their head was just stay safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your circle tight, and don't try to do anything extra. And that's a tough thing for a kid to deal with, a young kid, a young adult. But at the same time, if we want to get this season moving and with no interruptions, that's what we're going to have to do. And it was tough. We had to deal with it when we were practicing. Luckily, a week or two, we was able to be in a little bubble. But before that, guys had to just really stay in their rooms, go to the gym, stay in your rooms, go to the gym. And that was and it was an adjustment. But I think as far as we have to give these kids credit that they were able to adjust. They were able to adapt. And I think that they did a great job of doing that.
How has it been for you personally? Again, it's some people have had, unfortunately, we pray for them that lost people due to this. But how has it been for you personally and your family?
It's been I keep going back to these words. It's been an adjustment. A lot of people don't realize I had COVID back in July for about 2.5 weeks, which was it was tough. I've had family members that's had it. But one thing I'll be able to do is, I have a son that plays high school basketball. Actually, I just left his game to come out here to talk with you. Is that that's what I do a lot now is spend a lot more time with him because normally I'm practicing at this time, but now I'm able to go see him a little more and see what he's doing, and also I'm able to get into some high schools and some practices of schools where typically sometimes it's been tough to get over. So that's one thing I've been able to do, and just looking at it. I'm trying to turn the negative to a positive and get out and just see as much basketball as I can, and put my eyes on kids and spend as much time with my son as I can, while he's in his teenage years.
Yeah, and being from Knightdale and here, and knowing kids at Central and Shaw, you coached there and stuff. I'm sure it allows you to be able to have some connections. And I'm not going to hold you longer. And I know with my kids, a little bit younger than yours. We bonded because of this. So it's good. My new name is Daddy, though, but other than that,
Right.
But what about the kids? How are your players doing? Are they coming to you with concerns of any sicknesses, or are they receiving any sort of counseling to get through this? Because it's a mental thing to be just secluded and indoors all the time. It's got to be stressful.
It definitely is, and actually early on in the season, back in first semester, back in I think it was in October, November, I did bring in a psychologist to talk with them, and we were doing that probably once a month. We were bringing a psychologist, and I'm gonna get back to that. We haven't done it this semester yet because kids just got back on campus last week, so we're going to do that more, to just bring a counselor in to talk with them, because it is tough. It has affected me as well mentally, so I know it's affecting them, because I told somebody yesterday. I told them, I said, it's the first time in 38 years I haven't been able to go to a basketball practice and actually participate. So it's an adjustment for me. It's a huge adjustment. So I definitely understand their pain. But they're able to talk, and they know they can come to my office and we talk about it at times. But like I tell them all the time is that the Lord will not give them put anything on them that they can't bear. So therefore, this too shall pass, and we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together. And when we do get through this, we're going to be even better for this.
Yeah, and the Lord doesn't make any mistakes. So you're right. You can come out on the other side better. Final question for you. I know you said you're probably going to do some stuff in the spring. Is there a solid game plan, or again with COVID, you just don't know at this point? You have sort of a little bit direction moving forward.
Yes, our game plan right now is to really treat it just like a regular postseason. So we're going to get in the weight room. We're going to get some skill development in, and we're going to go for about 6 to 8 weeks, and we're going to hit it hard to develop and to get better. And like I told you, we're not going to waste these months and wallow in despair because we're not playing. We're going to get better, and so we can come back next year even stronger, so we can be able to compete for a championship.
He's had success at Saint Augustine University in 6 years. Of course, coached in the CBL and done well there. Marqus Johnson, I appreciate you, sir. You be well. Be safe. God bless you and your family. We'll talk with you soon, sir.
Same to you, LA, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't know where my baby is, but I'll find him somewhere, somehow. I've got to let him know how much I care. I'll never give up looking for my baby. Been around the world and I can't find my baby. I don't know when, I don't know why he's gone away, and I don't know where he can be, my baby, but I'm gonna find him. We had a quarrel, and I let myself go. I said so many things he didn't know, and I was so bad. I don't think he's coming back. He gave the reasons he should go, and he said things he hadn't said before, and he was so mad.
I'm Monica Evstatieva, an assistant producer and director here at Tell Me More, and my Black History hero is the one and only Toni Morrison. She has captivated millions of readers with her rich characters and stunning dialogues. The novelist is the only living American winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature, and she never shies away from addressing reality, as painful as it might be.
Racism will disappear when it's A, no longer profitable, and no longer psychologically useful. But at the moment, people make a lot of money off of it, pro and con, and also it protects people from a certain kind of pain. If you take racism away from certain people, they may have to face something really terrible, misery, self-misery, and deep pain about who they are.
I first read Beloved and A Mercy as a young adult after coming to the States from the Balkans. To me, her genius is storytelling that is so vivid I could actually relive a nation's joy and sorrow. English author Edward Morgan Forster once said, "Creative writers are always greater than the causes they represent," and Toni Morrison is just that.
Wanna make
Hey, this is Craig Batchelor.
This is Kevin Batchelor.
Hey, you're listening to the Batchelor Pad Show with my dad, L.A. Batchelor,
on the Batchelor Pad Radio Network.
I'm Margaret Lowe-Smith, NPR's acting senior vice president for news. When I was 13 years old, Claude Brown transformed the way I saw the world. He wrote the book Man-Child in the Promised Land. It's a novel, but really an autobiographical sketch of his childhood on the streets of Harlem in the 40s and 50s. Brown hung out with hustlers, drug dealers, and prostitutes. His story sprung me from my suburban childhood and introduced me to another America. When the story begins, the main character, Sonny, is 13 years old. He's been shot in the leg trying to rob a fish and chips joint. The character is the same age I was when I read the book. He'd been on the streets since he was 8, running from the cops, truant officers, and storekeepers. Claude Brown ultimately found his way off the streets, made his way to law school and to write Man-Child, shining a light on where he came from, revealing humanity and hope in a place where most people only see despair. The book has sold millions and millions of copies, a testimony to its resonance. Brown's story captivated and inspired me. It had heart and humor, and I felt a profound connection to this kid. It made me think about my own privilege and to wonder this: if I had nothing and the odds were stacked against me, would I be able to find my way out? I'll never know the answer to that question, but it has stuck with me my whole life. I find myself drawn to people who weren't born into comfort, but somehow created possibility for themselves. Brown's greatest gift to me was that he sparked my curiosity about worlds and people I don't know, and he helped me see courage and desire, not only in people who are just like me, but in everyone.
didn't know what to do. But when I turned on my radio, I found out all I needed to know. Check it out. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life with a song. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life from a broken heart. Last night a DJ saved my life. Last night a DJ saved my life with a song. Hey, listen up to your local DJ. You better hear what he's got to say.
There's not a problem that I can't fix, 'cause I can do it in the mix. And if your man gives you trouble, just to move out on the double, and you don't let it trouble your brain, 'cause away goes trouble down the drain. Said away goes trouble down the drain.
listen 5 to 1, 100 pounds of fun. I like to listen to this funk. I live on Don Perignon, heavy off feeling mignon, and you can best believe that's wrong. Here's what I'm talking about. You
I get exotic with the melodic tune. I get hypnotic with the moon, but you got to put me down soon. I flip a sideshow if you come my way. Up, down, and around, even sideways. I'm about as ready as the light can get. We can go all out. I ain't afraid of the sweat, but yet I bet you got the techniques to freak a girl inside out. What's that all about? Can I have some of that? You gotta put me on. Word around town is your 9 men strong. I wanna be put on in the worst way. Since the first day, I think it was a Thursday. You be that brother that I wanna sink my teeth in. Make me wanna ask, where the hell you been? I like the way you be with all that personality, but I got flavor too. You need to go with me. Everyday new clothes, look at the cut, cool pose. On 3, got the heat, so bluffing. Slanging patties, because it's more than 20 ducats. Drunk it, kinda rich, now his pockets looking straight. Slam the D's on the benzo, pancake by the gate. Mom's looking straight with her half, she got great. Lounging in her new home, that's about the state. I'll be your core mail, won't tell. You can get it when you want it, even though you got chicks all up on it. Don't matter, cause brother, you fly, I can't lie. I've been macking daddy from the corner of my eye. Now, baby, bring it on, don't be frontin' on your baby boo. All I wanna know is what's up with you. How can I get with you? Seems like you got a hold on me. It must be voodoo, cause baby, I want you. Down with you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. About so big, about so small, about this length, about this width, about this flow, about this gift. Instinctly and me right up your alleyway. Skip the moet, let's chill with some Alizé. Enough stressing all day. Let me massage your mind as my mental starts to play. A ghetto sauce if you are, and I'll be your sexual chocolate bar. And I gotta keep strong for the cause, and you gotta keep me strong for the cause. Brother, man, and me, damn the family. What else could we be with no one understands us but we? You were the first to tame me. Big teeth, I'm out. I wanna be down. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I wanna be down. I wanna be down with you. Light is red. Oh yeah, I wanna be down with you. Hey, here we go now. And it's on, yeah, and you don't stop. Brandy is in the house and you don't stop.
Welcome to the Bachelor News Radio Show on the Bachelor News Radio Network and WCOM in Carrboro and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I am LA Bachelor, and we thank you for joining us. As always, 646-929-0130, the number to reach out to us. You can also ask questions and make your comments at Pad Nation at Facebook, or Pad Nation, the number 2 at Twitter. We certainly appreciate you checking in there. The chat room is open as well. Hit us up on LinkedIn and on Instagram as well. The rebroadcast at thebachelornewsradionetwork.com. Want to go to my guest. He is the men's basketball coach at Norfolk State University, coming off a tough loss against Coppin State, but is still one of the best coaches that is coaching right now. He is Robert Jones. And, Coach, appreciate you coming on as always, sir. Hope all is well with you, COVID and otherwise.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Everything is okay. I mean, as good as it can be in these times.
Can you give us an update on that? Again, you're in the midst of a season playing, I believe, 17 games thus far, leading up to
tournament time. But can you give us an update on how it's been and the practices and all the testing going on? You're not in a bubble. You can't do that. Can you give us an update on what it's been like for you?
It's definitely been different, and definitely been, I would say, time-consuming for, all parties involved. We test 3 times a week. We take 2 rapid tests and 1 PCR test per week. We usually do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so tomorrow I have another test. And, it's just about the kids just trying to stay as safe as possible, the coaches trying to be as safe as possible, and honestly the managers and things, because everybody in our travel party gets tested 3 times a week. So there's a lot of people a lot of moving parts that have to stay safe in order for this whole thing to work. But, other than that, once you get on the basketball court, I guess it's basketball in a sense, except for, the arenas are a little quieter and things of that nature. But, once the game starts, the game starts.
Right. And with everything being for real, right, and being equal, whether you're home or away, it's really the same. So it's not any kind of disadvantage or advantage for anyone. The Coppin State game, it more or less, when I was looking at it and saw some highlights, it seemed to be they shot well from 3-point, and you guys didn't shoot as well from the perimeter and 3-point. What do you attest to both in your home loss against them?
I attest what you said a little bit. I think that also we just played terrible. I'm a very candid person. We just didn't play well. Hats off to Coppin State, they won the game, but we just didn't play well at all. And some of it we were baffled about why we didn't play well, because we got open shots. We got a lot of open shots in our home arena, and we just missed those shots. And you can't determine the ball going in. I think our defensive effort could have been a little better, but we did get open shots and we just missed them. So we'll possibly see those guys again in the MEAC tournament. Depending on how the brackets break down, but we just got to bounce back and look forward to a very, very tough Morgan State team.
Yeah, Morgan State coming up. We'll get to that in a second. Any adjustments did you make, or anything that you said? I know you guys are down 12 at halftime, and again, home court advantage is not the same with the crowds per se, but like you said, you're shooting on your court, so your guys know how to shoot on there. You missed some shots, but any adjustments? Anything said down 35-23 at halftime?
It was a lot said at halftime, to be honest with you, about us being down.
I know what you said.
Yeah, it was a lot said, but I don't think we could say most of those things over the FCC, waves. But we just made some adjustments defensively. We played a little bit more zone the second half, which put us on a run. And then once we got it to I think 48-48, we just couldn't make a shot to really break their backs. Because you know how it is when a team is up 12, it's not an insurmountable number by any means, but the other team is feeling good. The other team, Coppin, they were talking trash and things like that. Of course, how this basketball is. Right. But as we came back, it got quieter and quieter, on that sideline over there. But we could never get over the hump to just make it go complete silent. If for lack of a better term. So we just like I said, we just couldn't make a shot that we needed, and we ended up losing that game.
If folks, you're just joining us, we're talking with Robert Jones, head basketball coach at Norfolk State. Spartans coming off a tough loss, but still in the mix as always with Coach Jones. Coach, so you mentioned it. It's 48-48. A little less than 10 minutes to go. They outscore you by 10. Do you also probably say maybe it took the energy again? You down 12. It's helter skelter. You're playing more zone. You're getting better defensive looks and things and shutting them down. But did you think that you guys took a lot of energy just to catch up and kind of ran out of gas towards the end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, you never want to put yourself down and have to fight back, but I do think that just mentally we got down on ourselves a little bit, because we were playing pretty good defense in that stretch, and then we couldn't make a shot, and like it wasn't just maybe one time, it was like probably 2 or 3 times in a row that we would get another stop, and we couldn't, make a shot, and we had like 2 wide open threes, and we had another layup we missed, and things like that. So, it started to mentally wear on us, and then Coppin got their juice back a little bit, and I was able to go out and get go on a run in that second 10 minutes. So we just got to be a little mentally tougher down the stretch of games and realize that, we can't control the ball going in, but we can control other parts of the game no matter what, and especially our defensive effort, and that shouldn't rely on the basketball going in.
Talk about the play of Chavis that had his career high, the senior leader there, 15 and 7, and Devontae Carter played well, and you got some good play out of your sophomore off the bench. I think he was made 3 out of 7. Talk about their play that sort of contributed not only to bringing you back, but showing sort of the poise to get you back in the game.
Well, Chavis looks like Coppin State game plan was to try to play off of him. I guess they didn't realize that he can make the mid-range shot. I'm not quite sure what that was, but they was playing off of him, and he just kept shooting in mid-range. He kept banging in mid-range, and he had 10 points in the half. Then he had another couple in the second half. So he just took what the defense gave him, honestly, and that was a shot that he actually likes to take. He likes to take mid-range shots. Compared to a lot of these guys who like to take threes and things like that. So what they were doing defensively kind of fed into his offensive, package. And then Devontae ended up getting player of the week in the MEAC over the 2 games that he had against Coppin State. He averaged 23.5 points, almost 8 assists, almost 8 rebounds. So, he played pretty well, and he's playing better and better. He should definitely be an all MEAC selection in my eyes. And hopefully everybody else's eyes, but he's been playing well down the stretch. They did something similar to him too. They tried to bait him into taking the mid range, and he had 31 points the first game, and I think 16 or something like that the second game. So he played well as well. And then Darrell Anderson came off the bench. He's like our sharpshooter specialist, and he's like probably the only guy on the team that can be cold the whole game and then come up and hit 3 threes. So at 6'6", 6'7". He definitely stretches the floor for us.
Coach, the one thing I know you like and you've coached really well and is size and guys to be able to rebound and play defense. In this COVID year, has that been a strength for you? What kind of adjustments had you had to make in terms of your philosophy? Because, again, not the practices. We'll get to some other stuff, but, the lack of practices and things of that nature, making sure everybody's safe from the virus and not spreading it, taking it to your home or anybody else. How much of a challenge has it been for you as a coach to coach your way in the midst of this pandemic?
We were just talking about that today. Honestly, I'm a very fair coach, but I'm a very stern and really, coaching and, heavy on a lot of discipline. And I think that although the discipline didn't waver during this COVID times, trying to deal with what many people, say is perceived mental health, issues with the guys going through the COVID, this pandemic. Be honest with you, I think I've been a little softer on them just overall. And yeah, we're 10 and 7, so it's not really affecting us too much on the court. But I do think that as we get to these last 30 days before the MEAC tournament, I'm going to revert back and go back to a little bit of how we would be in normal times, just to try to tighten the screws a little bit, because I think that as sometimes the screws get a little loose because you're trying to, like I said, you try not to give up, try not to make it any harder on these guys than it can be in these times that we're living in. But at the same time, there's a certain way that you have to play, and there's a certain way you have to do things, and we have to revert back to that a little bit, I think.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Robert Jones, of course, men's basketball coach at Norfolk State. Coach, I mentioned in terms of the adjustments that you have to make on the fly. And when you look at your schedule, I mean, you've had some, postponements and cancellations, doubling up games, and making some adjustments from, home to away and playing this flow hoops thing that you guys are doing. Take us into that. Once you get this, for instance, you were supposed to play Regent, and that was postponed. You were supposed to play at home. And then you wind up getting UNCW a couple of days later at home, and you lost that game. How much does the postponements and making the adjustments for your home away play into that next game? Not to say that was, because I know you don't make excuses, but that wasn't the reason why you lost that game. But that postponement does adjust a lot of what you have to do traveling or otherwise.
Yeah. And like you said, that's definitely not the reason why we lost any of those, games. A lot of those games were, obviously on us. But what I will say is that it makes the preparation different because, normally by the time the season starts, your schedule is your schedule, and then you just prepare accordingly to that. You just adjust to that. Like you gotta see if you play. Let's say I don't know, February 1st. That probably 3 or 4 days before that you're gonna start your scout and things like that. And now you're starting your scout, and then sometimes you have to just throw it away because you're not going to play, and then now you have to start another scout on the fly. And some of these guys, like the assistant coaches, they'll start working on this stuff a couple of weeks in advance just to kind of get like a good feel of the team. And now you just do all that work and you throw it all away for a game that's a last-minute game. So I think the preparation is definitely different, and probably a lack thereof of preparation, and not just for my team, but for teams throughout the country. But it's definitely a different feel, man. This is the first time that you ever see like games postponed, rescheduled, and you see that on everybody's schedule across the country, and that's like the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and how do you feel about these like back to back with the same programs type thing? And it's how does that work for you? How's that feel? How's your team feel about that?
I think the back to back. The first game is like just a regular game because you prepare all week to play, play like you normally would. The second game is where it gets tricky. Second game is hopefully guys got enough rest from the night before. Do you take away shoot around? Because normally you're gonna do shoot around, but now we're playing back to back. So do we really have to do shoot around when we play to somebody else's gym? The same time, or do we need to do shoot around because something that really bothered us the night before? So it's a second game that's really the tricky one. And then also as a coach, are you going to go with the same scheme that you did the first game? Or are you going to throw a little wrinkle? Are you going to save a play from game to game so that the other team don't know exactly what you're going to do? So that's where the cat and mouse comes in there, and the chess instead of checkers come in there a little bit.
I talked to Marqus Johnson, who's the men's basketball coach at Saint Aug. I'm sure you're familiar with him in the program. And then, they obviously, the CIAA canceled all of theirs. The MEAC is playing. Do you have, at the risk of, going over the top or anything, I'm not asking you to question, the commissioner's office or anything like that or the schools, but when it was said to you, because I remember, last March, I was in Norfolk at the arena at the Scope, and the NCAA just canceled everything. I think you and I had that conversation before. So when it was the decision to be made to play, and I've seen you on Instagram getting into practice and all this other stuff, and how did you feel? And what was your first step to go ahead and get ready once you knew that, okay, yeah, we're going to play a season?
I mean, as the time was going on, and you see like the NCAA, you hear stuff that they didn't want to lose NCAA tournament 2 years in a row and things like that. So I think we started to gear to play. But then once we finally got the word, once NCAA came up with their start date, now okay, it's a finality to it. Like we know that we're going to start at this point. And a concrete start date, because at one point it was like a floating start date. But then once they came up with a concrete start date, we knew that we were going to play. And after that, it's just trying to just go full steam ahead. Now, for us, we didn't do a lot during the summer. We didn't do anything during the summer, honestly. So it was a lot of catching up to do to be able to play those first couple games. So that was a little abnormal for us. But, I think it's abnormal for a lot of people. There were some teams that did stuff during the summer like normal, but there was a lot of teams across the country that didn't do anything. So we were one of those teams that didn't do anything. So it's like, even right now, we're like on practice, like I think practice 60 as a unit. Now, I can't tell you that for all 60 we've had all 14 players at all. We might have only had 14 players for 10 out of the 60, due to when someone coughs too much now, it's like a precaution. You kind of remove them to try to test them and, things like that. Usually they just come back, negative because they were just coughing. But I mean, everybody is just so precautious. So, and of course with injuries and things like that. So, with us, we probably only have about 10, 11, maybe 12 practices with everybody there out of 60. But also with that 60 number will be about 80, 85 right now, on top of the summer. So we're losing 25 practices that we normally would have on top of all like the 20 to 30 summer workouts that you get. So, the team, we play 17 games, and this will normally be around like a little past the midpoint of the season. So you start to turn the corner a little bit. But now for us, turning the corner is now the end of the season, and it's like a different dynamic totally.
Yeah. Just joining us, talking with Robert Jones here on men's basketball coach at Norfolk State on the Bachelor News radio show on the Bachelor News Radio Network, WCOM, and Chapel Hill, and our sister station in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Coach, just a few more questions. And just, as you brought up your team and the practices, how is the team? Have any of your players been coming to you with concerns or anything regarding COVID-19, being isolated? In some cases, obviously, this is not the NBA bubble. They're not in a bubble, whatever, and on campus and things. Are they coming to you with concerns? And is the school in a position? Have they been in a position where they can do some counseling? Because, I mean, this is real. Like, it's a mental thing. Like, if you're isolated for most of the time that you wake up, it's mentally stressful. If you're not playing basketball and you used to, Marqus Johnson told me this is the first time in 32 years he hadn't practiced or shot a ball or anything in 32 years. So your players, that's a mental thing. So have they come to you with any of that kind of concern or stress or anything?
No, honestly, they haven't. I think that we talk about it, enough that, if anybody have any concerns or anything, that, they'll voice them, but no one's really talked about, at the beginning, it was just all like, the uncertainty questions, like, are we going to play, coach? Are we not going to play? When we're going to start? Things like that. As far as just overall mental health, I can't say that they've talked a lot about, like, any problems in that regard. We try to keep them together as much as possible and just, keep their spirits upbeat as much as possible, because we do know that, it is different. Even we're having no fans. A lot of players and coaches, too, you look forward to walking into a visitor's arena to get that negative energy to kind of fuel you through the game. And now you're just playing, you're just playing. And it's tough at times, but I think everybody at this point is used to it. I don't think anybody wants to go through it again, but I think at this point, everybody's kind of used to it.
And then for you, in terms of personally, how are you and your family doing? I know, up top, it's been really bad in terms of the virus and getting the vaccine and stuff. But how is it for you personally?
So far so good. No problem. I mean, at first when everything was going on, it was very frustrating because you want to be out there with your guys. You just want to be out there in general, just outside, if you can be. But I think the human mind and the human body can adjust to just about anything. And I think at this point in time, I think we've all adjusted at some point, whether we like it or not. About the pandemic, about the wearing the mask, the social distancing, and I got more bottles of sanitizer I've ever had in my life, that you have around and things like that. So I think everybody at this point get used to, they're used to like life in the pandemic, whether we like it, or not. And I think most people don't like it. So, we're just used to it at this point, I believe.
The final question, going back on the court, you look at this Morgan State team, and you said a well-coached, very good, balanced team you guys split with earlier in January coming to town. I guess the first question is, you have to shrug off this last one, again, playing the back-to-back thing, shrug off this last one, and then get ready for a very good Morgan State team this Saturday.
Yeah, without question. I mean, there's a lot on the line this weekend. That we're able to sweep them. Then now we're back into a three-way tie, and honestly, we have a lot of the tiebreakers over some of the other guys. Even though we didn't beat Coppin, Morgan did beat them 3-1, and we're able to beat Morgan 3-1. Then it goes to point differential and overall record and things like that. So. We have some, or we will have with two of the top. We able to get 2 wins, some of the tie breaks. So this is an important weekend. For us, the disappointment with losing Coppin was that we were able to control our own destiny. As far as like just win the thing outright. Now we have to go through the tie break scenario, and hopefully will help even more if we're able to win both games. If Del State's able to beat Morgan or Coppin or both, then we will win it outright. So this is a huge weekend for us, and we got to be ready to play. And like you said, Morgan is a very dangerous team. I mean, they got 6 guys that's got 20 points at one point in time this year. So when you got 6 guys that can do that, I mean, you're an offensive juggernaut, and we have to come with our hard hat on to really lock down and play some good defense.
And I was going to say too, what they present to you. What are the keys to sweeping them this weekend?
I mean, it's just tough because like I said, with those guys, usually you can take away a guy or take away 2 guys or whatever it is. But when you got 6 guys capable of giving you 20, it ain't a whole bunch of guys you're going to take away. It's like you guys kind of play them straight up and, hope you can contain all of them, which is a tough task in itself. So, it's definitely a different game plan. They've done a good job of their assembling talent, and we got to be ready to play.
Well, I know Coach. I know you're gonna have them ready to play, and if at halftime they're not ready to play, you're gonna give them the business anyway. So like you said, we can't talk about it on the air, but hopefully it won't come to that. Best of luck this weekend. Listen, God bless you and your family. Be safe. Your team and staff. And best of luck back-to-back this weekend with Morgan State, sir. Thank you for coming on.
All right, no problem, man.
Appreciate you.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right. Robert Jones, of course, always good to have him on. He's the men's basketball coach at Norfolk State, taking on Morgan State. A big, big weekend. Like he said, control their own destiny. They had the chance. They're still in a good position. With a little bit of help, they can actually win outright moving into the tournament. Otherwise, even in a 3-point tie, Norfolk State is always sort of in the mix for that. We'll see what happens. It is the Bachelor News Radio Show on the Bachelor News Radio Network, WCOM, in Carborough and Chapel Hill.
I'm Ken Blackwell, a senior fellow at the Family Research Council and the former Secretary of State in Ohio. The black history figure I most admire is my uncle, D. Hart Hubbard, who was the first black American to win an Olympic gold medal in an individual event. He competed in track and field at the 1924 Paris Olympics, the one made famous in the movie Chariots of Fire, and he won the gold in the long jump competition. D. Hart Hubbard didn't compete in all events for which he qualified, not because he didn't want to, but because he wasn't allowed to. He was denied a fair chance to race by the International Olympic Committee because of his race. But this didn't embitter him. Having been a star athlete at the University of Michigan, it motivated him to compete even harder. After Paris, he returned to his hometown of Cincinnati and started the Cincinnati Tigers of the American Negro Baseball League. Although he's most remembered for his track and field accomplishments, D. Hart Hubbard, a Christian, was most proud to be running the race described in Hebrews 12 of the Holy Scriptures, one where the real finish line awaited him in heaven.
Welcome back to the show. We thank you for joining us. It's the Bachelor News Radio Show on the Bachelor News Radio Network, WCOM, in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, North Carolina. Our sister station is there. Black History Month, really 365, should be celebrating it. We do, at least, in our conversations and everything. Fitting that we talked about D.R. Hubbard, established a team in the in Negro Leagues, and it's fitting that we would have our next guest on, of course, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Stop that music there. That would help there. Just a pleasure to have him join us, and rare, but hopefully we'll get him on more. Again, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. He's Bob Kendrick. And Mr. Kendrick, I appreciate your time. It's L.A. Bachelor alongside Tony T-Mac McClain. I'm going to go to T-Mac in just a second. But thanks for joining us. I hope all is well with you and your family. I just want to ask one. Yes, sir.
No. I was just saying thank you, and things are well, considering everything that's going on in this country right now. But things are good, and it's great to be back on the show.
Yes, sir. God bless. And the one question I do want to ask you before I go to T-Mac, that were you surprised and were you pleased, or were you Johnny come lately with Major League Baseball finally, right? We already knew what it was, but finally acknowledging all the accolades, all the statistics of the Negro Leagues. Not even the Satchel Pages and all those people that crossed over, but the ones that never crossed over, that don't get the credit, that finally those numbers are being acknowledged.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to be privy to the fact that this was in the works. So it didn't come to me as a complete surprise, as it probably did for most baseball fans when the announcement was made this past December. But when I did first catch wind of what baseball was considering doing, it did surprise me a little bit. And to be quite frank, I was initially kind of taken aback a little bit too, my stance was a little bit defiant, and it was coming from a place that, okay, we don't need you to validate us. And because, LA, I knew so many of these players, and they were very self-assured. They knew how good they were. They knew how good their league was. And quite frankly, the major leaguers knew how good they were. But then I had to realize, so they never were seeking validation from anyone, but I had to literally step outside myself, and because, I'm looking at it from the inside out, and I had to literally look at it from the outside in, what this meant in the annals of history, and that this was indeed a welcome level of reckoning, of atonement, of acknowledgement, and it had tremendous historical significance. And I'm glad to say, fellas, that in my old age, I'm able to kind of have this change of heart. Some people are so rigid that no matter whether or not they think they were wrong or right, they just stay with where they were. And I realized then that, no, this is significant. And once I got to that point, it was like everybody else. And most of the Negro League players, all the Negro League players and their families are also equally excited about this. And so by the time we got to the announcement, I believe that was December 16th of this year, it was coming from a place of genuine excitement for what this meant historically.
And Bob, it seems like to me you've taken, I've been looking up over the years. This is Tony, by the way. Great talking with you as well. Over the years, I had always thought that some of the former players would harbor some, bitterness or what have you. But the one thing that was always constant to me was they never, they enjoyed their time, and there wasn't that thing of bitterness. And the one constant to me always has been, and the whole entrepreneurial spirit of the Rube Fosters, of so many other folks, in the sense of, okay, you won't allow us to play your game, we will play ours, and we will be better than what's out there, and we will carve out our own legacy. And 100 years later, that legacy still stands with that, not just with the uniforms or whatever, but your the place over there in Kansas City, which you guys run.
Yeah, and and I think that's the thing. I think that's why, Tony, the story of the Negro Leagues is so compelling. It is so awe-inspiring because of exactly the way you frame this. Okay, you won't let me play with you, I'll create my own. And as you referenced, those leagues were created. As a matter of fact, it'll be 101 years ago this coming Saturday.
This month.
It will mark the anniversary. It will mark the actual 101st anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, formed here in Kansas City in 1920. And when Rube Foster and those other 7 independent black baseball team owners gathered in Kansas City at the Paseo YMCA, and when they signed those documents to start the Negro National League, Rube Foster boldly proclaimed, "We are the ship to
sea." Yes.
Exactly. And man, he was sending notice to Major League Baseball that a new player had arrived on the scene to be reckoned with. And so it was, in his own way, the Negro League's Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. And there's something very American about the fact that I won't allow you to tell me what I can and can't do. And so I'll show you. And you're right. My league would then rise to rival, and in many cities across this country, surpass the league that wouldn't let me play in popularity and in attendance. And so it is that kind of celebration. It is triumph over adversity. And we need these stories. And we need these stories to continue to be told and expounded on as much as possible. And that's the work that we're doing at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
I wanted to piggyback on the MLB thing. Now, first of all, did they? I just want to get some sort of a framework. How did they approach you guys how did they approach you guys in regards to this and how they presented it, and what was their basic reasoning behind it? I'm just very, very curious.
You know, and it comes from a good place. It was about righting a wrong. You know, very few of us even knew about this commission that Major League Baseball had put together in the late 1960s, 68, 69, that had blatantly disregarded the Negro Leagues, had recognized all these other leagues, professional leagues, but had disregarded the Negro Leagues. And you know, it's so interesting to me that these other leagues, which really had very little, if any, impact on the game of baseball in any profound way, and yet here's the Negro Leagues that even before integration was impacting Major League Baseball. Because, again, many Negro League teams were playing in those Major League stadiums, filling up those ballparks, and when they were doing that, the Major League teams were getting a percentage of the gate and likely all of the concession. Again, from this little league that was somehow inferior. And then when we get to integration, when Jackie breaks the color barrier and this pipeline of great black and Hispanic talent flow into the major leagues, it made their game better. There is no question. When you look at what took place from 1947 through about 1960, early 1960s, Major League Baseball saw the largest influx of talent at any one time as it had seen in its history of the sport. And the majority of those players came from the Negro Leagues. Again, this league that somehow was deemed inferior. So you know it was blatant racism that was the cause for this commission to not include the Negro Leagues. And really what Commissioner Manfred and those at Major League Baseball did was they came back and righted this wrong. And I tell people all the time, and I think you guys will probably agree with me, it ain't easy to say I was wrong and to say I'm sorry in our everyday relationship, fellas, even when we know we're wrong. We don't want to say don't want to say we were wrong. And so for Major League Baseball to make this acknowledgement, and as I mentioned earlier, this level of atonement was something that they felt compelled to do. Now, perhaps the fact that we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, and this country was going and enduring a level of social tumult that was reminiscent of the 1960s, perhaps that had a little something to do with the timing of this epic announcement. And so I think all those things came into play, but I sincerely believe that Major League Baseball came from a good place with this decision to recognize the Negro Leagues in this capacity, and then to integrate the statistics from the Negro Leagues into their record books. And so that is really significant.
And
Tony, if I could just ask real quick, I'll go right back to you. I'm sorry. What's a good place, Mr. Kendrick, where they're coming from? And then my comment, and it really goes to you and Tony, is that sure, I think we all have to be able to say, and Tony and I talk about this all the time. You know, even if they're pulled in, kicking and scratching, they're doing the right thing. So the good place, or the good place where it is. But we have to be the ambassadors for speaking up about the Negro League, like you do with the museum and what Tony does, the historian. So even
I think we lost
those who are still, by the grace of God, still living, they don't. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can
I'm
hear
sorry. Even if the ones, the Negro League players that are passed on, or their family members are there, or even by the grace of God, the ones that are still here, they don't have to say anything. Like Hank Aaron didn't have to say anything. You know, his record spoke for itself, and we can speak for them. So even if they're not holding a grudge, we still can be champions for them. So what's this better, and speak about us being the voice for those who don't need to speak for themselves because they know how great they were anyway. And then, Tony, you go back to you.
But you're absolutely right. It's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we continue to uplift our history. And the downtrodden aspect of our journey as black people in this country has been pretty well documented, from slavery through the struggles of trying to move through a civil rights movement, being sprayed by water hoses, dogs released on us, the police brutality that has still manifested itself to this very day. But my success stories have rarely ever been documented. And so it is important that those of us who have voices do just that. The Negro Leagues are one of those great success stories. And we have to be able to continue to tout those. And those of us who have the platform have to utilize those platforms. There were some 3,400 people who called the Negro Leagues home. And most of them are gone now. They can't speak for themselves. They're gone now. And the legacy of the Negro Leagues, I tell people all the time, the Negro Leagues Museum doesn't need to survive. It has to survive so that we don't lose this precious piece of baseball and Americana, so that our children can come to this museum and not only learn about this amazing piece of baseball and Americana, but also be inspired by the passion, the pride, the perseverance, the determination, the courage that these athletes demonstrated in the face of adversity. And fellas, what I tell people all the time, our story here is not about the adversity. A lot of people will dwell on the adversity. No, we don't. We focus on what they did to overcome the adversity. And that's the real story. And that's a transcending story. And to me, that is why the life lessons that stem from the Negro Leagues are so important right now, perhaps more than ever before. But it is incumbent upon us to make sure we keep lifting that up.
Absolutely. Again, speaking with the president and executive director of the Negro League Baseball Museum, Bob Kendrick, here on the Masterpad Radio Network. We talked, LA hit upon this in talking, and I think all of us are still mentally and physically hurting in regards to the passing of Henry Aaron. And I know you were very, very close with him, as you have with so many of the former Negro Leaguers. But I mean, because of what Hank stood for and what Hank did, and in many ways, that is his story is almost like the anthem of every Negro League ball player, whether they're the home run king or not. And the fact that he, literally was bigger than the sport over the years, and his loss is just still resonates. Talk about your relationship with him, and also just, touch upon his legacy and how it coincides with the Negro Leagues.
Yeah, no, man. My heart is still heavy. Henry Aaron was my all-time favorite Major League Baseball player. He was my childhood idol as a kid growing up in Crawfordville, Georgia, just 80 miles east of Atlanta. And so he was special to me. Anytime that we were on the sandlot, I was Henry Aaron. And everybody knew that Bob was going to be Henry Aaron. And I'm sure some of the kids were like, dang, why Bob always got to be Henry Aaron? So, I wanted to hold the bat like Henry Aaron, right. Everything. And you did the cross-hander thing too as well? I didn't even know about the cross-hander stuff until I actually got to the museum. But I knew a lot of kids in the country in particular who did bat cross-handed. And so, it's rare. Well, let me preface like this. Most of us grow up with sports heroes. We have people that we idolize from afar. And it's rare that we get to meet them and get to know them. And sometimes when we do, they don't always meet our lofty expectations. But with Henry Aaron, he far exceeded anything that this kid from Crawfordville, Georgia could have ever imagined. And this is what was part of the reason that I became so drawn to the history of the Negro Leagues. Because, guys, here I am. I'm a baseball fan. Henry Aaron is my favorite ball player, and I had no idea that his career had started in the Negro Leagues until I started volunteering with the Negro Leagues Museum, Team 93. And that fascinated me. It's like, okay, how in the world could I not know this? And for those who are listening, Henry Aaron began his career in the Negro Leagues 1952 with the Indianapolis Clowns. And my favorite photograph in the entire exhibition at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is a relatively nondescript photograph of Henry Aaron. He's 18 years old, man, standing at train station in Mobile, Alabama. You know, he has this look of uncertainty on his face. He must have weighed 150 pounds soaking wet, and he's about to go leave to join the Indianapolis Clowns. And you referenced the fact that he was, at that time, a skinny, cross-handed hitting shortstop. So in the case of Henry Aaron, he was a right-hand hitter who was hitting with his left hand on top. And as you all know, that is unorthodox. The fear is that you would break your wrist hitting in that manner. Well, Henry Aaron is knocking the cover off the baseball in a highly unorthodox. When he gets to the Clowns, because they really didn't want to tinker with this kid's swing. When he gets to the Clowns, they put the right hand on top, and the rest, as they say, is history. He was shortly after discovered by the Boston Braves, who would become the Milwaukee Braves, who would become the Atlanta Braves, and Henry Aaron will go down in his sport as one of its all-time greatest players, and you can make a legitimate case that perhaps its greatest player, because in a game of numbers, and baseball is a game of numbers, in a game of numbers, no one's numbers were better than Henry Aaron.
And you know, even in looking back on stuff, you know, I wrote something last week, a couple weeks back. You know, he was the accidental tourist of baseball in the sense, because he wasn't supposed to be the guy. You know, Willie was going to break the record. Maybe Frank Robinson was going to break the record. You know, Mickey Mantle was going to break the record. Maybe even like a Harmon Killebrew or what have you. But, you know, here he was chopping wood all those years, you know. And now by the time I had, you know, started to watch baseball and knew exactly what was going on, it was, you know, 1969. Now, he had already won a World Series. He had already won an MVP. He had won batting titles. He was a perennial all-star. But he literally did everything in broad daylight. And literally by the time he got to, like, say, 650 or 700, people were like, where did this guy come from? Where did he come from? And to me, that's the most amazing story of his career. And again, the numbers kept going up. And then, you know, when he finally shut it down, you looked at the numbers, like you said, and it was like, gee whiz, this guy was incredible.
He was incredible, man. And you know, if you talk to Mr. Aaron, he never looked at himself as a power hitter.
Exactly.
He was just a great hitter who hit the ball hard, and it just happened to go over the fence 755 times. And so, you know, he was a model of consistency. And we talk about these numbers, you know, his total base record will never be broken.
Oh, yeah.
His RBI record is highly unlikely that anybody will catch that. And when the stage was big, he got even better. And he hit more home runs off of Hall of Fame pitchers than anyone in the history of this sport. And again, one of the most amazing statistics relative to Henry Aaron is if you took away all 755 home runs, he still got over 3,000 hits.
Yeah.
You know,
He
stole bases. He played a great outfield. He just happened to play a corner outfield. You know, Willie played the center field. That's the glamour spot. You know, and Hank played the corner outfield, but he always threw to the right base. He could steal bases, great base runner. He made the right play, and he just did everything with grace. And so he was a special ball player, but an even more special human being.
Yeah. He's. I mean, to say he's going to be missed, it's beyond cliche and whatever. Ellie, if I could just indulge Bob for just a couple more questions. I know we're close to the top of the hour and everything, but
oh no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay, great. Number one, we talked about the pandemic. What's been the last? I mean, I know you got now. Is the museum officially shut down? What exactly have you guys been doing during the pandemic, and as things are progressing, what exactly have you guys been doing during this pandemic, trying to get through it, and what are you looking forward to doing for 2021?
It was so interesting what occurred, not only to us, but everybody who has been dealing with this pandemic. And we were shut down. We shut down last March 14th, and we were closed for only 3 months, so in the grand scheme of things. We reopened in June, and we've been back open. We're operating under Kansas City's 25% capacity protocol, COVID protocol. Okay. And so we're not seeing the numbers that we would typically see from foot traffic, but we are getting people coming out to the museum. And it hurt us last season, even though baseball did ultimately resume, it was without fans in the stands. So you didn't have people traveling into games, and we draw so many baseball fans in the summertime, and so we missed that aspect of it. And as you all know, we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of the Negro Leagues, and so we had planned this year-long centennial celebration, and this was so long waited and anticipated because there was a lot of things were going to happen with this celebration, along with all the events that we planned and jumpstart a major national fundraising campaign, because again, it's important that we sustain this museum into perpetuity. And so much was riding on this celebration. And guys, we get off to a flying start. February 13th of last year, we go back into the Paseo YMCA, just right around the corner from the museum where Rube Foster started the leagues. And I've got the commissioner of Major League Baseball. We got representatives of Major League Baseball's Players Association, a host of other dignitaries who had gathered there as we were going to commemorate this milestone occasion. And Major League Baseball and the Players Association announced a joint $1 million contribution to the museum. We rolled out all of our plans for the year. We rolled it. And, man, less than 30 days later, everything came to a screeching halt just like that. And I tell people now that as a steward of this story, you realize you cannot wallow in self-pity because it would be doing a complete disservice to all of those who call the Negro Leagues home. Again, they never cried about the social injustice. They went out and did something about it. So you can't wallow. But now I'd be lying to y'all if I told you that I wasn't doing a little wallowing when this first hit, because we were so heartbroken about the fact that all of these plans were falling by the wayside. But at some point I realized that we have to take control of this situation as best as we could. And we had to find ways to salvage this milestone 100th anniversary celebration. And then we just went to work, man. And I think you used the word chopping wood. And that's exactly what we did. We came up with this crazy idea called Tip Your Cap to the Negro Leagues. Yeah. And it was a virtual campaign that was just a crazy idea that I had that just happened to go viral. When we came up with the idea, I had no idea that it would turn into what it did. But when we launched this campaign on June 29th, we launched this campaign with 4 U.S. presidents tipping their cap to the Negro Leagues, with President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush, President Jimmy Carter, notable dignitaries like General Colin Powell, transcending athletes, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Henry Aaron, Billie Jean King, Bob Costas, Stephen Colbert, Conan O'Brien, on and on and on, of those who joined this effort to pay homage to the Negro Leagues by simply tipping their cap. And you all know, as a ball player, there's no greater show of respect than a simple tip of the cap. And so this idea just took off, and the level of engagement around the museum started to just skyrocket. And throughout the rest of the year, we had a Salute National Day of Recognition with Major League Baseball. Even though there weren't fans in the stands, people were genuinely excited. The level of engagement continued to grow. And then we announced late in the year that we had gotten the U.S. Congress to pass legislation that will authorize the U.S. Mint to create a commemorative coin recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Negro Leagues. And this is very prestigious. And to get, and I don't have to tell you guys, to get the Republicans and the Democrats to agree on anything is not easy.
There you go.
It's not easy. You know what I'm saying? If one of them said the sun is shining, the other say no, it ain't. And so we were able to get bipartisan legislation passed that will authorize the Mint to create this coin. This coin will be minted in 2022. But along with the prestige, if we're able to sell through all of the coins, we could raise some $6 million for the museum. And so this is quite significant. And then as we touched on earlier in the show, by the time we get to December, Major League Baseball makes this epic announcement of the fact that it was going to recognize the Negro Leagues as a major league. So we were able to salvage the year against all odds. And we saw the level of individual support grow 3-4-fold. People found the wherewithal, even if they were having their own challenges, they found the wherewithal to support this museum at a time when this museum really needed its support. It needs it all the time, but when you're going through a pandemic as we were going through and as everybody else has gone through around the world, that support means even more, because in these difficult times, you have to take care of people. Health and Human Services moves to the absolute forefront, which also means that cultural institutions, the art and culture, fall a little bit by the wayside. And so at that point, you're typically just trying to hold on for dear life. But right now, the museum is operating and operating well, and it's because so many people have embraced us during these difficult times.
And it was great. It was great to see that. And I'm biased when I say this, but you guys deserve it, and you especially. I don't think people really realize the kind of work that Bob does on a yearly basis, but he makes sure that the word is out there in regards to the museum and the Negro Leagues as well. One last one. I know we could do this all day, but we have to do this another time. You talked about you're a big baseball fan. Same here. I always jokingly tell folks we got about 12 black baseball fans left in the world, and we all do a conference call once a year when things go on. And we talk about how, you talked about the numbers, in the early 60s. And, of course, now it's, I believe this past year it was dropped to, I guess, another percentage, like a 7%. How tough is it for you as a fan to still watch baseball, even though the numbers for us, for lack of a better word, are down, and they're probably going to get worse before they get better? Or am I leading it too soon? Or am I being too gloom?
I don't know if I wouldn't call it too gloom, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. But you're right. Those numbers are not where we want them to be. They're not even close to where we want them to be or where we believe that they should be. But I think there is hope. And so what makes the game difficult for me is just the way that the game is played. And that's why I do think that we could have a tremendous impact, because it speeds the game up. And I don't mean put a stopwatch on the game. I just mean that right now our game has kind of turned into a home run strikeout game. And let me preface by saying, I know I'm old-fashioned, but I like the game when guys are stealing bases and taking the extra base and doing these kinds of things that the analytics say you probably shouldn't do. Bunting the ball, and, they call it small ball. I call it winning baseball. And it has been winning baseball, really, particularly as it relates to the Negro Leagues, since these leagues were formed.
Exactly.
And so I tell all my folks in the commissioner's office, we don't need a stopwatch. If you give me something that I want to watch, man, I'm gonna sit there and watch it. I'm not gonna worry about how long it takes. If you give me something I want to watch. But the pace of the game moves so slow now. And so we need those days when here in Kansas City you had the Amos Otis and the Willie Wilsons and even, moving ahead to Bo Jackson and UL Washington. All these guys could run, man. And even doing that stuff.
And even that even the title team in 2015,
you
still had you still had Lorenzo Cain. I'm having a senior moment because I can't remember the rest of the guys.
That 15 team was the last team to me that played a Negro League style.
Exactly.
They called it keep the line moving, but they had great pitching. They played great defense. They could steal bases. And I tell people all the time, when you can steal a base and everybody in the ballpark knows you're going to steal that base, but they just don't know on what pitch, the excitement builds. And when Lorenzo Cain scores from first base in the ALCS championship against the Toronto Blue Jays, he scores from first base on a single. And he makes that pop-up slide at home plate, and the stadium is going crazy. It just doesn't get any more exciting than that. And you know what happened, fellas? You had guys like Gerard Dyson and Lo Cain and others who were
Gerard Dyson. That's the guy I couldn't remember. That's the guy I couldn't remember, Gerard Dyson.
They're stealing bases, and then this started to permeate throughout the rest of the lineup. And everybody started wanting to steal bases, and it just was exciting to see. And we need that back in our sport again. Now, I don't know if we're going to ever get that because, again, the analytics say something totally different.
Well, that's another 2-hour conversation in and of itself. But yeah,
right. And Mr. Kendrick, I know I agree with you. As the two of you have been saying, I grew up playing baseball. I mean, I might be a little bit younger than you guys. I'm 50, but I mean, I was a Winfield, Reggie Jackson, Don Mattingly. Yeah, I'm a Yankee guy. So. Those were my guys. I was hitting the ball with the wiffle ball and the tape and everything and playing baseball and, playing in the Spanish league with my brothers there and even coaching. Tony and I coached Little League Baseball. So I've been around it for a long time. So when you talk about Kansas City with the stolen bases, certainly you and I and purists, right, we love it. And certainly in Kansas City, when you see it, you love it, but I guess my question to you is: does it transition to "Chicks love the long ball"? That whole slogan and the touchdown and the 3-pointer and all the dramatics, and even if the NASCAR with the crashes and stuff, everybody wants to see this dramatic stuff. They don't want to see the little stuff. In football, they don't want to see the handoff. Tony and I talk about it all the time. They don't want to see the running back handing the ball off. They want to see the deep pass with a touchdown or the big home run or the big 3-pointer to win the game. Nobody wants to see the fundamentals is what you're talking about anymore. So how does baseball get around that, get past that, promote it in the midst of, these kids like mine who want to play football and basketball, and then, oh, by the way, baseball's kind of cool.
Yeah, we got some work to do. We really do. And we're obviously, and the thing though, I applaud the fact that Major League Baseball and the Players Association have embraced the fact that we have this work to do and are starting to commit the resources that are necessary to make sure that urban kids have a chance to play, that we continue to bridge the financial gap that is preventing a lot of kids from ever even attempting to play this game. Because our game, as the way that you just described it, used to be a satellite game. and kids didn't have to worry about these leagues and league fees and all this equipment. You know, you didn't even have to have 9 kids on the team. You just divided the number up, and then you made up your own rules. So if you hit the ball and missed the yard, you were out. You know, and unfortunately and sadly, those days are a thing of the past. And then this game became extremely organized. And once it became organized, it became extremely expensive. I mean, now you're talking about these exorbitant league fees and travel teams and specialty coaches, hitting coaches, pitching coaches. I mean, I know people who are paying the equivalent of a college tuition for their kids to play summer baseball.
Wow.
So that has priced a lot of people out. And so we know we've got to bridge that gap so that our children have a chance to play the game. Now, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I don't want the reason that you don't play baseball is that you didn't have a place to play and you couldn't afford to play. And so because you think about, you think about the greatest athletes of the 1980s, in my estimation, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan, Deion Sanders. Their first love was baseball.
That's right.
That's right. That's the kind of athlete that baseball was drawing once upon a time. And we need those athletes back in our game again. Yeah, their first love was baseball. You know, everybody played baseball, you know, and to that again, and it's going to take a while. You know, the thing that we are not very good at, and that's patience. We don't have patience. We live in a microwave society, so we want to see things instantaneous, and there ain't nothing instant about the game of baseball. So we know that it's going to take a little time, but I still believe wholeheartedly that the programs and things that are being put into place, and I can tell you this, there are a lot of black kids playing baseball now. Now we just got to make sure that they can be seen by these scouts with the opportunity for them to be drafted. And as we start to see the minor leagues more populated, we'll see these numbers start to change. You can almost project at that point in time that these numbers are starting to change. But, you know, our sport is the most inexact sport of them all, man. You know, you can get to the minor leagues and you may never get out of it. You know, it's so difficult to project.
Bob, I just hope we have a minor leagues this year.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's a part of the issue too, because we're losing some of the minor leagues as well.
Yeah.
Right, and just to your point, real quick, and I appreciate you staying on with Tony and I as long as you have. So, are you in favor of the 7-inning doubleheader and all the other changes baseball's trying to make in terms of improving the speed, as you mentioned? It maybe not always in terms of the speed, but making these changes in the game. Are you in favor of these? The extra inning rule they came up with?
I thought the changes were necessary, you know, because we're still dealing with a pandemic. And there are some safety issues there. And so I could understand and kind of endorse those things. And quite frankly, even though they didn't agree to do it, I thought the playoff format added a level of excitement to this last year.
Tony, oh my God. Tony and I, Mr. Kendrick, I promise you, last year I thought, at least for I thought baseball had the best playoffs in any sport. They got it right. They got it right. Absolutely.
So I kind of was hoping that they would hold on to that format. It just added some drama. And it made it possible for a team that under normal circumstances may not have had a chance to get to the playoffs, but with the expanded playoffs they could. And then once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. And so that was exciting to me. I was a little disappointed they didn't keep that. But, you know, I understand why they needed to have some of these adjustments in what they were doing, because you want to take care of these ball players and try and keep them as safe as you possibly can.
Real quick, were you surprised? Two final questions. Appreciate you staying on with us. Final questions. Were you surprised that no one? I mean, obviously they're going to rake Barry Bonds, who took Hank Aaron's record, you know, on the numbers in terms home runs. That they're going to make him pay, and Roger Clemens and those steroid people. But Gary Sheffield, who I think should be in, of course, a vocal guy, a socially conscious guy. I think they're keeping him out. I think he got 40% or whatever. You got to get 75. Were you surprised at any of them, especially some of the brothers and some of our Brown partners, the Andrew Jones of the world, that didn't get in this year at all?
Yeah, no, it did surprise me. It didn't surprise me that they kept Barry and Roger out. Barry and Roger are both Hall of Famers in my eyes. I know there are some purists who just refuse to believe or accept the fact that they should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm just not one of those. Both of those players were Hall of Fame players before we ever knew anything about steroids. And I don't know what was done, and I'm not the judge or the jury on this. But the thing is, the problem for me is you're signaling out a couple of folks when you don't really know who did what. There is no guarantee that some of those guys who they kind of just said didn't do it, there ain't no guarantee that they didn't do it. We don't know. And so because you don't know, you cannot just definitively say that such and such didn't do it. No, you don't know that. And so I do hope that they get in. I think they deserve to be in. Both of them tremendous ball players. Barry Bonds is one of the greatest hitters this sport has ever seen.
Yeah, and I think he learned too, and Tony and I talk about this, learning from his father with the media, and baseball media is so unforgiving and so self-righteous and stands on a soapbox, and a lot of them don't even, some of these reporters never even seen these guys. And by the way, and Tony will tell you, I'm the biggest Pete Rose needs to be in a Hall of Fame guy of all. There's no way you have a section of the Hall of Fame, right, and then you're not in the Hall of Fame. Makes no sense. The guy's got 4,000 hits. Absolute no sense. That could be a whole nother discussion. But I want to end with with your museum as opposed to others. In particular, when you took the kids to the African American Museum in D.C. is very compelling, but it really deals with struggles and lives and martyrs and people who were in the struggle, as opposed to what you're saying is that we want to highlight how they overcame those struggles. Yeah. So talk about your museum and why it's unique in terms of that. But at the same time, your museum is a microcosm of what, as you mentioned earlier in these interviews that we talked about, the microcosm of how Black society has to deal with and what we've dealt with in the beginning. But preach up how your museum is different and how spectacular it is as opposed to some other. Not disrespect to them, but the uniqueness of what you guys do. Yes, sir.
You're absolutely right, because it is no disrespect, because all of these cultural institutions that bring our history to light are very important. They're very important. We need to understand the struggle, but we also need to understand our successes. And the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is a civil rights museum. It is a social justice museum seen through the lens of baseball. But again, it is triumph over that adversity. And when you come into the Negro Leagues Museum, and I know that many of our guests probably think on their way to the Negro Leagues Museum that this is going to be kind of sad and somber, because, again, we know that it is against the backdrop of American segregation. But we don't treat it as such. We treat it as a celebration. It is the celebration of the power of the human spirit to persevere and prevail. And that's what makes the story so special. Yeah, we don't focus or dwell on the adversity. You can see what they were going against, but we focus on what they did to overcome the adversity. And that's the real story. And guys, that's a story that transcends race, it transcends age, and it transcends gender. And that story, it is so vitally needed at this day, at this moment in time, more so than ever before. And we need our children to understand what others had to do to overcome obstacles in their lives, but it also demonstrates to them what you need to do. And so Negro Leagues Baseball, it created a vibrant black economy. And wherever you had successful black baseball, you had thriving black economies. Here in Kansas City, black folks could only operate within a 13-block radius. Couldn't go outside those 13 blocks. But, man, within those 13 blocks, you had everything you needed. Everything you needed. You know, and you had stuff that other folks wanted to come into the community so that they could get a taste of it. The music, the fashion, everything. And so we have so much to be proud of. And I think those stories have to be elevated as well.
Well, you know, nowadays we call them flea markets. Tony and I have them back home. I mean, it's just, you got music, you got culture and everything. The only thing is, I think it's watered down in terms of the knowledge and the history. And I'm blessed enough to know the two of you and do the research I can to tell my kids, hey, it's not about you wearing, you know, some old Negro League hat. What does it mean? Do you even know what it means? So I can educate them. I can educate them based on what you've told me and what you've taught me, so I can teach them. And I think that's part of it, Mr. Kendrick and Tony, is the fact that it's not, if we're so, and I get so upset, and I've tried to tone it down, I get so upset when I see people here in Durham, North Carolina, home of North Carolina Central, and Black Wall Street and everything, wearing Duke jerseys and North Carolina jerseys and not historically black colleges and things of that nature, and not understanding if you put on a Kansas City Marduk or if you got a Satchel Paige shirt on or whomever, right? And then you don't know what it means. You're just wearing it because it costs a lot from whatever, or somebody gave it to you. You don't understand the history. And I think that's the gap that we're missing, Mr. Kendrick and Tony. The understanding of what you're wearing, identifying, or not wearing, or identifying, or knowing is the problem. And we need more of you, Mr. Kendrick, and your museum, and Tony as a historian, to push that narrative out there, to have the platforms to push it out there so people understand, our kids, our generation, grandkids, understand really what it's about, the success. We were banging it out, you know what I mean? We were some bad boys, and we still are, but here's what it was, and I don't think we do that enough. We as black people in itself don't do that enough.
No, I absolutely agree, and that's why these cultural institutions are so vitally important, because, again, you know, we have a licensing program, and we're proud to see people wearing Negro Leagues gear, but you're absolutely right. I want them to know what they're wearing. You know, I want to educate you when you put on that Kansas City Monarch shirt, or you put on a jersey representing the Homestead Grays or the Pittsburgh Crawfords. I want you to fully understand, yes, it's fashionable, but there is a level of authenticity that goes along with that. And you need to know who those teams were. And we try to make take every avenue to make sure that when they put on a garment that is an officially licensed piece from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, that they have an opportunity to learn the history of that garment and what it represents. Because if I can teach while we're, you know, getting people to want to wear the stuff and believe that the stuff is cool, that's great. But we also want you to learn something and be fashionable at the same time.
Wow, I just got an email, and last question, I promise you guys. Mr. Kendrick, they asked with Madden and MLB and the NBA 2K, is there going to be any effort to put just a Negro League Baseball video game together. I never thought about that actually.
Yeah, no,
that you know of.
Yeah, no, people have been asking me a lot about that, particularly after baseball made the announcement, because now you got statistics. You got statistics that you can now put into the game. So I think that it increases the possibility that Negro League players and or teams will be included in some of these games as we move to the future. And we know how important that is because, again, it's a great way to introduce the history to our young people in a method or, kind of a mechanism that they are accustomed to utilize. So, yeah, I do think the ability that you'll see Negro League players in these video games at some point in time.
That'd be great.
I certainly hope so, and I hope they put pressure on there because I can promise you, having teenage boys, they know about the darn 1952 Chicago Bears because they play it on Madden than I do. I mean, really. So if they know it on they know. Listen, my kids, Mr. Kendrick, Mr. and T, they know more about Madden League than I do, and I'm a Madden League fan because they got it off MLB. Come on.
And oh, by the way, you actually saw him play.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's ridiculous. So if they're gonna acknowledge those stats, Mr. Kendrick, we need to put pressure on them. Have a entirely separate Negro League game, so our kids, if nothing else, if they're not going to learn some other way, they can learn it that way, and they know how great these guys were, and they put the stats in there. They enhance the games with as great as you are. So Babe Ruth's home runs he's going to be a better hitter than some other guy. They do all that in Madden and MLB and NBA and all that stuff. That would be awesome. That would be just totally awesome if they did something like that.
No, it would. It would be a wonderful teaching tool. And you know how the kids love these devices and these video games. And for me, I'm all about taking the history to where they are. I can't wait for them to come to me. I got to take it to where they are and be able to let them utilize it in an arena that they're comfortable in. And that's part of relevancy, and that's what we're working on every day is how do we make this history relevant to what is happening in the lives of our children today.
Well, Mr. Kendrick, I appreciate you staying on as long. It's passionate. We can go on forever and ever with this and your museum. And the next time we have you on, we're going to focus even more on the museum. But thank you so much for what you do, number one. Truly, honestly, thank you for keeping everything alive in what you do in the museum, number one. Number two, thank you for being someone who learned it the way you did. I mean, having Hank, who doesn't want Hank Aaron as a hero? And then you actually took the time to learn. Well, dang, this dude was pretty. Tony did the same thing. He didn't know anything about the Negro Leagues until he learned about the Negro Leagues. Then wow, like whoa. So it's the same thing. And then I learned from you guys. So thank you so much for what you're doing, and we will have you on again. I'll be in touch with you. And I appreciate your patience this evening, sir.
No, man, my pleasure. As always, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
Bob.
you, Mr. Kendrick.
Take care, sir.
All right, guys. Take care.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right.
Bob Kendrick is president in the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. He just kind of brings this kind of conversation brings out a lot, not just the Negro League conversation, but the understanding of research, the understanding of history, our history, and the importance. And by the way, one of the things he said, I think we kind of talked about. Well, more you, because I kind of get pissed off with MLB, but the fact that you know what, we can get angry for the moment, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is a good thing for us, and we just need to just kind of give them some credit, a little pat on the back, and we take it for what it is. Wherever it's coming from, we take it for what it is.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
Look, we've had the conversation. I'm like Jeff Ray.
Right.
but I love baseball, but baseball doesn't love me quite back as much as I would like for it to. But with that being said, I try to, in a sense, I do try to take sort of, the positive out of it, and Lord knows that, the powers that be seem to always just sort of find a way to mess things up. But I'm optimistic. I mean, I think it helps that, the team I root for seems to be turning a corner at some point here. So that helps a lot. But I'm just, this is one of my favorite times of the year because the Super Bowl's over. And so now it's, I think even more so because of the pandemic and whatever, I think folks are ready for baseball. Folks are ready for baseball. I saw there's a couple of already players that are reporting in Florida. I believe pitchers and catchers officially start up next week. MLB Network is already starting their 30 for 30. I think. There's 30 teams in 30 days stuff. So, if it would just stop freaking snowing down here.
But see, the only thing I would say is that it's really good to accentuate the positives. We know that, right? You want to do that, but
sure.
I guess because baseball is such a numbers game, and with the steroids that's over advertised, if you will, as opposed to some of the other sports. That our guys, right, your Keith Fernandez or my whoever doesn't get in because of whatever they do, it does accentuate the fact that, baseball doesn't love us the way we love them. We don't get our guys in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What?
So it makes it even worse.
But see again, one of our colleagues back in the day used to always talk about how you got to take the Hall of Fame with a grain of salt. Like I said, when the NFL quote unquote got it right this weekend, I give them their due. But there's still for every 6 guys that deserve to get in, there's still probably 24 that deserve to get in. And just be reminded of it, but also to see look at the end of the day. I'm still gonna sit down and watch a game. Whenever if and when they do start playing in April, if they start on time and what have you. And again, everything as I've been saying for it seems like a year now. We'll see. With everything else, but I feel let's put it this way. I'm very hopeful that they're gonna get somewhat of a full season this year. I don't think, and maybe I'm being Pollyanna about it, but I think you may get, say, if you could get, say, 140, 150, if you can say 140 games this year, I would consider it a season. With all due
I was going to say, 130, 140 games. That's 3/3 of the season. So yeah.
With all due respect with the Dodgers, and I'm not going to take away from their title because they did earn it. They were the last team standing. They had the best record, and they paid the other team with the best record. So in that sense, they got it was done. But and you look at how they've added to it, getting Bauer and sort of adding on to what they have. I mean, they're basically bringing back the same team with I guess Turner hasn't re-upped yet. But
bringing in Bauer is pretty big for them. But
and see,
huge.
And here's the scary thing. Remember, David Price opted out last year.
Right.
So basically, right now it's Bueller, Kershaw, Bauer, Price, and then they still got some youngins that could still get in there as well. I mean, I'm not ready to hand it over to them again, but it's going to, let's put it this way. Between them and the Padres, what the Cardinals are doing, what the Cardinals have done, and they just and they finally came to their senses and brought and Yadi's coming back as well. And there's folks that think that the East may be the NL East could be the most balanced division this year. We'll see. I still think it's the Braves.
I would say that. I would say that the East is really loaded. Like pitching, the East is extremely. The National League East is very loaded, and a lot of teams could beat the Dodgers in that division, including your Mets.
Put it this way: if Washington is all the way healthy, i.e., Strasburg for more than an upright position for 4 or 5 months, they're in the mix. Like I said, I still think the Braves are the class of the division. The Mets will be better. I know there's they have I still would like to see them add a few things. They signed Jonathan VR today, which I was kind of like, the more the merrier, I guess. But it's going to be interesting as well. You see what Toronto did bringing in Springer. If they're able to get if either one of their young pitchers comes through or they get somebody at the trade deadline or whatever, they're going to be in the mix. I think Tampa.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the East, the East is the sergeant of arms. Like it's an arms race.
It's
really
it's really all of the only team that I'm afraid that I don't really know what to think now. I've been on the White Sox bandwagon the last couple years, but bringing in La Russa, to me, I mean, I get it. He's a Hall of Fame manager and all the other stuff, but to me, they took a step back bringing him in there. That's just my own
right.
personal
But I'm talking
opinion.
about. Going back to the NL East. Like it's the arms race. Like everybody's got pitching in that division, really.
Well,
they really do. You look at, to me, with the Braves, and I think, like you said, if Strasburg's healthy and the Mets, I think those three right there in the NL East can challenge the Dodgers to, and not to say the Dodgers are the team to beat, but I'm just saying if the Dodgers are the team to beat, those three can defeat the Dodgers based on pitching.
Well, look, the Dodgers are the champs, so you beat them, and they basically added 2 Cy Young Award winners with Price and Bauer. So
I got it.
Yeah. They, you got to give them their due. They've been the best team in the National League for the last 6-7 years. So, if nothing else, you have to give them their due for that. But again,
But you mentioned the Padres have been up, and you and I already talked about the Padres and the mix they have in their lineup and their pitching staff now. They are a scary team to play, and it's more dangerous because they're in the same division with the Dodgers. So that makes it even more dangerous.
Well, see, now it's a mental thing. Because, they could have done a lot for that franchise. Look, the Dodgers, for the most part, the Dodgers dismissed them in that playoff. And that, they're all, until they're able to do it when it counts, they're always going to be sort of the redheaded, I guess in this case, brown-headed stepchild to the Dodgers. Now,
right, and then you would think too, Tony, not to cut you off, but you would no disrespect to their manager, but a Bruce Bochy in that position. For me, I think with that pitching staff, he's a proven guy. It makes it a little, to me, it makes it a little bit different in terms of a step back, in my opinion.
Well, put it this. Here's the thing. It's a sort of thing right now where, at the very least, in the West, it's going to be Dodgers, Padres beating each other up all year. I know a lot of people think Arizona, but I'm not quite sold on Arizona. the Rockies are rebuilding again, and basically getting rid of Nolan Arenado, to me takes them a huge step backwards. But see, I think the thing to me is who's going to be sort of like surprise team in a sense, or somebody that may upset the apple cart, because every year there's always one team that maybe not so much comes out of nowhere, but oversees their expectations. I can't say it's the Marlins, because Marlins want to play. With all they went through last year, the Marlins not only got in the playoffs, they won a playoff series. So the surprise is,
right.
I think it's more so, can they do it again, more than anything else. But I think with all in both leagues, it's very, very top heavy, and I agree with we all talked about how the extra round of playoffs, they're sort of doing it. They basically cut it down to what instead of the 8 teams, I think it's going to be 7, if I remember correctly. But
let me ask you this, and we'll break down. I have another question for you but we'll break down. But the intriguing team, you mentioned one, and the other one is in your division, is Philly. And I don't know if this one team, I don't know what's going to happen with the Phillies. You talk about them, and then Arizona, I don't think they clearly have the pitching to stay with them. They might be slightly better than Colorado, but I don't. As much as the strides that they have made, I don't know if Arizona. I really think that what you said in terms of the West, the 2 teams you mentioned, is a 2-team race. I don't think anybody else is going to even be close. So talk about Philly and Arizona.
I think Philly's probably in a little bit better because they were able to bring Real Muto back. So and DJ Gregorius. So they're going to be able to. The thing with the Phillies is always going to be pitching. It's basically Aaron Nola and the volcano.
Well, that's what I said. Yep.
Yeah, and there's rumors that Arrieta may walk. And matter of fact, there's rumors that the Mets may try to sign him. And if that could set them back. The only reason why I mean, let's put it this way. Are they if it comes down to Arizona and Philly, I think Philly's a better team. But that's not really saying much because both of them struggle pitching wise, and more so Philly because of that bullpen. And to me, they did nothing to add to it. So they're basically bringing back the same lineup for the most part. They didn't really add to staff. So, they may be a spoiler, but I don't. I truly think it's going to be between Atlanta, Washington, and the Mets. Philly could surprise, but to be honest with you, and this may people may say I'm nuts. I think the Marlins, only because of their youth, might be a little bit more to deal with than the Phillies. Only because they're young and dumb and don't know any better, and that could almost be their if they truly are going to allow this team to build, they could be dangerous. And I know it's been said a few times over the years, but I think the fact that you have, I think that the unexpected success that they had, and please do not sleep on Miss Ning. This woman knows baseball. She could, there's a possibility she could, put herself in that same realm of all the top GMs and all of baseball, because she's been waiting for a chance to do stuff. I just hope that the Marlins give her a true opportunity to build, because
she's in a better position than some of these other first women in sports not to be fired in terms of the optics. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
if you're official or you're assistant basketball coach or whatever, she's in a higher position in terms of optics. Like, okay, we gave her a shot. She's a woman. Let's just get rid of her. I think she's in a better position. Having said that, you're right. Looking at her resume, she's qualified. What the hell? Like she's qualified.
There's a lot of
What's the problem?
There's a lot of old school guys that should have been out of jobs a long time before she got her first one. But again, that's the $1 million boys club of baseball. That's been like that for years. Whether you're black, Hispanic, or Oriental or what have you. But that's good. The one thing about this year. There's a lot of real good, interesting stories from both sides, And look, the baseball season always lends itself to that, and because of the whole uncertainty of going back at last year and what have you, I'm looking forward to the season. I mean, I always look forward to it anyway, but because there's a lot of juice on and off the field this year. And if there's some way of fortune that they can get the fans to come back, add to it. Because
let me, I want to run out of time because I got some. We can go all hour. I think Philly, may have stand a better chance in Arizona only because of the parks and the lineups. And to your point, it could be a stretch with the pitching. But with that being said, I got an email from Dave in Flatbush, ironically, asked who had ultimately you thought who had the best pitching, if you could say it in short terms of less. Who had the best pitching in the National League East overall? Are you saying Atlanta? And then, if so, rate the pitching in that division.
You want me to do it as an analyst, or you want me to do it as a Met fan?
As an analyst.
Well, let's put it this way. I think the Mets potentially have the most balanced.
I think so too, but go ahead.
Only because look, you know what you're going to get with DeGrom. See, to me, the thing I loved even more so about the Lindor trade was getting Carrasco. Carrasco comes in as either the second
Nobody
or
talks
third.
about it. Yes,
And just,
right.
He's an all-star. He's a bulldog, and he's somebody that they've needed for quite a while. Because, see, everyone's talking about...
He gives him some swag, too. He gives him some swag.
Well, see, let's put it this way. I'm more optimistic about him than I am about... I always knew... Because, see, I'm still not... Thor's got $1 million arm, but I think he's got a $1.25 head at times. And I think that's what's cost him over the years. People thought that he was going to be – people basically thought he and DeGrom were going to be the next Seaver and Kuzman. Well, DeGrom did his part, but Syndergaard has not. He's been hurt. He's been a little bit of a baby, a whiner, and he's thick-headed.
And been protected, too, by the media, but go ahead.
Not early on. But I think even now they're starting to realize, because it's been a few years now. You got to remember, 2015 was a good ways away now. Think of, the one, when you think of when they got to the series in 2015, DeGrom wasn't thought of in the same light as he is now. DeGrom has clearly, taken his game to an entire other. Because remember, it was supposed to be Matt Harvey and everybody else.
Right. The great Matt Harvey, yeah.
Matt Harvey is on somebody's non-roster team right now, but potentially with DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, and Peterson, the kid who came up last year, they've got a chance to have the most balance. The thing with them is going to be the lineup, because they go through these stretches where they don't score a whole bunch of runs, and that's why a lot of people were hoping that they would get Springer. But I'll be honest with you, if they're able to get a Jackie Bradley Jr., I'm good with that. But see, the thing is also, now the whole thing about the DH is still up in the air. And see, the Mets are the team that if there was ever that needed a DH, it would be that, because you could put Dom Smith at first base and Alonso could be your DH. And the thing about it is, Alonso's not a butcher at first base, but Smith is clearly the better fielder. And him in left, it leaves a lot to be desired. But what's so funny is there's so many different rumors / lies that are out there. We talked about Jake Arrieta. There's a rumor about them going after Bryant from the Cubs. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you got Daddy Warbucks running the team now, so everybody thinks that that he's going to just go out and buy the World Series this year, but they're not. They're not going to. I have no problem saying this. They're not going to the World Series this year. They're going to be in the mix, but a lot's going to have to happen for them to even get to the World Series this year, let alone get into the postseason. But there's still more things that have to be done.
I think DeGrom and Carrasco gives you. DeGrom and Carrasco gives you that personality, that stud, that stud type of swagger on the pitching staff that DeGrom and Syndergaard was supposed to have. Syndergaard gone, Harvey gone. I mean, Syndergaard there, but Harvey gone, and DeGrom gives you that, and you bring in this guy. You're right. I mean, you need that swagger. You need that dominance, and that's what they get with those two guys, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was looking forward to the season, and I am. I mean, they still. I'm very hopeful that they'll be able to sign both Conforto and Lindor, while still adding, to the mix. It's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a fun season. But I always tend to take a step back, only because I have respect for the other teams in that division. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But it's I'd be lying if I didn't say I'd be not looking forward to the season.
It'd be nice if both our teams can do well, and it'd be a rematch from the Piazza days where they played in the Subway Series. But it is what it is.
Much like Derrick Rose, it's not a rerun I'm looking for. Not a rerun I'm looking for.
Well, listen. Next week we're going to talk about the changes in baseball and talk about some of your previews. And I appreciate you. And you be well, be safe this weekend. We'll talk with you soon, sir.
Sure. Talk to you later, man.
All right. Tony T. McLean, he's the editor-in-chief of the Black Athlete Sports Network. If you miss any part of our broadcast, go to our website, thebachelornewsradionetwork.com. Bachelor with a T. Enjoy the rebroadcast there of our broadcast on the Bachelor News Radio Network and the Bachelor News Radio Show on WCOM in Carrboro and North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Carrboro. The rebroadcast there, the BachelorNewsRadioNetwork.com. Network with T and Bachelor with a T. BachelorNewsRadioNetwork.com.